Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to a brand new TAT pod. I'm your host Ben, and once again, we are back with another pod, proudly sponsored by Sportening, which is the best football app you can get for all your football news, all your tables, your fixtures, your results, and we have an amazing community on there right now on the TAT group chat. So make sure you get involved. Link down in the description. And today we have a special guest. We had to make a last minute substitution. Connor went to football, and unfortunately, he's ended up at hospital. I think he's okay. I think he's with his friend, but something happened. So I had to get Asim in last minute from Born and Red. Thanks once again, mate, for coming on at last minute. Appreciate it, mate.
No, thank you very much for reaching out, Ben, and it's been a pleasure. You guys are one of the few sort of pages that I look out for on Twitter, and you guys are doing a great job. And once again, thank you very much for reaching out and giving me the opportunity to come on and share my opinions. It's not all rosy at the moment in the Liverpool house, but it's a cycle, isn't it? You got win some, you lose some, and you just have to get through it together, I guess.
For sure, mate, for sure. And obviously, you go home and away, mate. And when you saw this lineup that's on the screen now, mate, in front of you, it's unchanged from Rangers. I think the big question before the game was, is Klopp going to stick or is he going to twist? Because obviously Rangers and Arsenal, it's like they don't compare. It's a much different game. But when you saw that we were sticking with this formation, was you confident or did you think it's Arsenal, like we can't really take anything from the last game?
Ben, I was thinking about this on the way down. Like you said, every Liverpool fan was actually thinking, what's happening what's going on in Klopp's mind? 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. It was Rangers a test drill for the Arsenal game, and he admitted it after the press conference after the Rangers game and said, "Look, I was surprised at how well the two did in midfield." And for me, and like all the guys who look into the sort of the tactical side of football, the 4-2-3-1 is always questionable when you come up against a side that's going to force the number 10 or the second striker, in our case, Diogo, into a midfield role and basically force us back and make him chase back the other way. And then ultimately it becomes a 4-3-3, and you've got Jota playing in midfield. And I always thought we might get outrun in that midfield. And I thought the 4-2-3-1, yes, for the first 45 minutes between minute maybe 5 to the second goal, was doing well. While I also thought it was papering over the cracks, Ben, because I think Arsenal got the goal so early and just mentally just thought, you know what, we need to sit back here and just counter. And the way they were set up and playing, whether we forced them into that sort of into those positions, I don't know. I don't know, Ben. But I do think, because of the early goal, we had that system and it made us control things. But in hindsight, you'd say Arsenal had the energy in the second half to completely turn the tables around and really play on the front foot. Were they reserving energy? Have they become this resilient side that they can adapt, go into games? And that's what is the hallmark of a great side, isn't it? Not playing gung ho football for the 90 minutes, because better teams and the best teams in Europe, even in the Premier League, even forget so the European teams, just look at domestically, the top six will pick you off if you go gung ho. And how many times have we seen it just in this season and over the season or the last few seasons as well? And you have to give credit to Arsenal because they've shown a different side to them. And this, going back to this 4-2-3-1, was I happy? I think because we only saw it against Rangers, you had to say, you know what, let's back the boys, back the team, and we're Liverpool, we're taking the game to them. And if it means playing in an extra attacker, then so be it. But I don't think the problem is formations at the moment, Ben. It's just moments of madness that are really, really causing us just, bizarre moments, these world-class mentality monsters that we're seeing this year. And doesn't matter what formation you play and whether you're happy or not, Ben, you just cannot legislate for moments of madness.
No, I hear you. 100% agree with what you're saying. And speaking of some of those moments of madness, mate, you touched on it just a minute ago. you get in your seat, you get your drink or whatever you do, and you're settling down, ready for the game, and Martinelli's put the ball in the back of the net in a minute, and it's that right hand side again, isn't it? I think Saka brings the ball into the midfield, and then Odegaard splits our defense into two, just with a simple pass, brilliant pass. And then Martinelli, we know about this guy, we know how dangerous this guy is. Yeah, it didn't seem like we were prepared to stop him, and Klopp's always speaking about this guy, constantly going on about how good he is, which hopefully means we're going to sign him one day. That's my hope at least. But we know how dangerous this guy is, mate. So for that goal, why was it so easy for him to end up in that situation where all he literally has to do is take a shot at Alisson, to no fault of Alisson's, because he's not going to miss from there, and then we're chasing a game yet again, which has been a constant theme, even back from last season.
Ben, I read some crazy stat that how many games has it been now that we were chasing games?
So
What is it, about 11 out of 13 or something? So it's not a coincidence. And this has become the norm. Liverpool concede the first goal. And it's sometimes, normally it's been sort of around about the 6th to the 10th minute. But we've gone a few steps further and conceded after 58 seconds? And again, I refer back to the setup and the mentality of the players at the moment. What you do when you're conceding goals for the large parts of the last 2-3 months is, if you have to be boring for 10 minutes and then come out and start playing your football, just that word that I'm using, to adapt to games, you go. And when you've sort of, the chips are down, you need to make sure you're in the game. And because you cannot be chasing games, you can't create moments like Ajax and Newcastle, like we did, earlier part of the season, and win games at the 90th minute. It just doesn't happen. So why are you relying on moments of brilliance all the time? And the first goal, I think, it's Shimikas. It's Shimikas. We nearly win the ball in the central position. I think it was Jota. And if we nix it, we're in. But it's the risk and reward strategy. But I think the positioning of Shimikas, it's alarming. In the first minute of the game, he's just far too forward. And why are you giving someone like Saka, who Arsenal used as a bit of an outlet on the break? Because Saka and Martinelli are so dynamic, are so full of energy, Ben, that they can drop in so many deep positions for them. But get up, 100 to 200 yards further up the field, excuse me, in matter of, seconds. That's how dynamic and fast they are. And I always thought, how are we going to cope on those flanks, especially with the form of Trent. But Trent's positioning in the first phase, from what I remember, it wasn't bad. But because Shimikas was so far forward and caught too far forward, it just allows Odegaard to go wide to Saka. And that is the ball that we needed to stop. And all of a sudden now, Thiago's out of position and Henderson's out of position, and they're running the other way. And which helps Saka to sort of dribble inside, with Hendo sort of trying to cover, but it's too late then. That's how bad the positioning of Shimikas was. And this is happening in the first 50 seconds of a game. It shouldn't be happening. And this is what I mean about, it doesn't matter what formation or setup you play. You just need to be boring for first 5 minutes and make sure we're not ending up chasing a game and just playing gung-ho football from the word go. So, and that's when, Saka comes forward, and then that's where we are position. And Trent needs to now make a choice. Trent's going to get a lot of the headlines because it's Trent, isn't it? But I think the first goal is understandable, and it's not as bad as the second goal. The second goal, I'm sure you're going to come on to, and we'll touch on that. So all of a sudden, the ball, who was the ball that played it out? Was it Odegaard that played it out wide? So I think Xhaka makes a straight run and a slightly diagonal run, which sort of distracts Trent. And then all of a sudden, Trent now needs to decide, does he stay narrow for that run, which he is at the moment, or does he go wide? And he decides to stay compact. And what he does is, he thought he's going to go out wide, but he still leaves a bit of space on the inside. So Trent, in terms of position, yes, he was wrong as well. But it was slightly understandable because he had another blind a run on the blind side. But I believe you have to stop the goal at source. and the
Yeah,
source
agreed.
was Shimikas's position. It was just very, very alarming to see. And all of a sudden, after 59 seconds, the crowd is up. Not that they needed a reason. The league leaders after 58 seconds, and Emirates goes just wild again. And Liverpool fans thinking, here we go. We're used
Hmm.
to this then. And it's just become we just start looking at each other thinking how many minutes is going to take for us to concede. And we had that feeling in Brighton at Anfield again, and I was discussing it with the lads on another podcast, saying I don't think I can remember. I think I had that feeling, the same feeling at Brighton last season.
Yeah.
Sorry, Manchester City last season,
Hmm.
sorry, in the first half, where every time Manchester City went forward, you thought, you know what, we're going to concede. And it's the first time after a long time I had that feeling. And yesterday, you just looked at each other thinking, you know what, we're just used to this. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Lack of legs, lack of mentality, lack of form. It makes you do strange things, doesn't it, Ben?
Yeah, no, spot on. And I think, to be fair, once they got the goal, it seemed like we were doing okay, and the half kind of balanced out. And I think we'll get onto the equaliser in a minute, but I was happy in a way with how the first half went because we didn't capitulate. We
Yeah.
didn't just fold and just let them score like loads more. Like the fear was. We actually grew into the game. We started attacking them. But just before we got the equaliser, mate, a few moments before, obviously we're subject to some controversy with the penalty.
Yeah.
From where you were sat, obviously you must have just seen an arm up and the ball hits his arm, but I do not understand, right? And I was fine with it like at the time because obviously the commentators are saying, "Oh, it's because of how close they are."
Yeah.
Whatever, fine. But then the United game later on, Rashford had a goal disallowed because the ball hit his hand, which was in a far lower and a far more natural position
Mm.
than that. And I guess in a way it doesn't really mean too much because we got the equaliser, but it was just the start of poor officiating for me. And I don't want to go on to the officials too much because I speak to my brother, like I will blame the officials, like, and if they're the sole reason for us losing a game or drawing a game, then fine. But the first thing that we need to see is the team performing well before we can blame anyone
Mm.
else. If we played out of our skin yesterday and we didn't win the game because of poor officiating, then I'll be sat here crying about the officials saying how bad they were. But we left with what we deserved, mate, and it was nothing.
Yeah, I agree, Ben. It's just the perfect scenario. When it rains, it pisses it down, and when you're playing badly, generally the decisions start going against you as well. And you're
Yeah,
right with the Rashford one. Look, I don't know the rule exactly how it is, but I think it's something to do with when you're in an attacking position. It doesn't matter if it's accidental, if it touches your hand, because it played a part in the goal. If you've got the ball and ends up in a goal, it's a handball. I think if it's a defensive situation, it's slightly different. It's about sort of the hand in an unnatural position, which I thought it was.
yeah, it was.
I'm trying to put my sort of Liverpool bias to a side. I heard some comments about, I think it was Ian Wright was touching on the foul,
Hmm.
and he said, "Look, the refs need to get their act together." But with the handball, I thought it was an unnatural position to where we sat, we were the opposite end, Ben. So we didn't know we would after the VAR check was going on. But the guys who were sat in the VAR check have about 10 million screens, and if they can't see that is a handball, then I don't know what is a handball. Arsenal fans are trying to say it came off his chest first, which slightly changes. Look, I really don't know if you're going to start zooming into the camera that much. I really don't know. If it did touch his chest, then maybe the rule again. How does that sort of play out? Does the rule change again if it touches your chest and then the arm? Is that a
Yeah,
completely different scenario then? But to me, when I saw the handball again, it looked a penalty, and even the commentators on Sky, Gary
yeah,
Neville and both Martin Tyler, both my United fans, by the way, they even said, "Look, I won't be surprised," and Gary Neville especially was surprised. These
yeah,
guys have had sort of their days out of the VAR studios over the summer, and they always go down and check how these guys work, and then they hear the conversations as well in their headsets, don't they? And I was very, very surprised. So were they, but it just goes when your chips are down. These sort of things don't go for you, and when you're playing well, these sort of 50-50 decisions go well and nobody talks about them. But it's just that situation. But like you said, we're not playing well enough at the moment, and we can't
Yeah,
put these down as excuses. It's just those
absolutely.
moments at the moment are just really, really putting a nail through the coffin. And I just don't. I've stopped looking at the table at the moment, Ben. I really have.
Taking it game by game.
Take it as a game by game, and
Yeah,
we just need to sit back and reassess our expectations now. And
absolutely.
I'm sure the management team and players are having those conversations right now.
Yeah, you mentioned when the chips are down, mate, things don't go your way, and that's been a constant theme for Darwin Núñez this season. But he did get his goal yesterday, and you could see, like, his celebration, how much it meant to him. Just a sigh of relief, I think, from him. And from a game of like such negativity and such poor performers, I think Darwin Núñez was the standout player for us yesterday. Out of every game, you try and take one positive, maybe two, like just to cling on to. And
Yeah.
if I could take anything away from yesterday, then it's that Darwin Núñez is now looking more confident, because the Rangers game, he was really good. And I was thinking, you know what? That's Glasgow Rangers. You can't really take too much into, like, you can't read into it. But how Núñez performed yesterday, the goal, I mean, he's just taken one touch to put it past Ramsdale. And they're the positions we need him in and around the box, getting on the end of chances. And it came from a long ball from Trent, and obviously Gabriel's made a mistake. He should have done way better with that. But Trent's long ball catches them out, and then it comes to Diaz, who puts it across. So again, mate, when Núñez puts that in, like, are you thinking, okay, now we're going to push on and search for a goal to take us ahead, or was you still like, I'm not sure?
Look, we engineer a control in the game. Whether we play that sort of double pivot in the midfield and Arsenal can't really grips to it, were they expecting us to go back to a normal 4-3-3 and sort of go like for like? Because I've seen their formation a few times, and a lot of the websites, think it's a 4-2-3-1, but it's not. Xhaka is playing more than 8 this season, and Partey is playing the lone 6. And so, was it a bit of a surprise? I don't think so. I think they just got the goal early, and naturally they sat off. And even if you look, I saw sometimes Martinelli dropping so deep with Tomiyasu tucking in and trying to sort of stay compact. At times, Xhaka went into a centre-back role. At times, Partey went into a centre-back role. So they all had that fluidity about them, whether it was in attack or in defence. And you have to give them really, really a lot of credit the way Arsenal are playing at both ends of the pitch. They're really playing for each other, really covering each other, and just that adaptability, again, to go into certain formations to nullify Liverpool's extra attacker. Yes, they had the luxury of attacking the goal. When the goal went in, I had that sort of feeling, yes, we're back in. But I don't normally when Liverpool come back into the team, I think, you know what, they're going to blitz the team now. But I don't have that feeling at the moment, Ben.
Yeah.
I know we're going to let in goal, through the defensive transition, is because that is the problem for Liverpool at the moment. When we lose the ball, we're all over the place.
And that brings us on nicely to their goal just before half time, mate. If you want to touch on that as well, nice view from yourself, right in front of you, wasn't it? So,
again, it was the other side. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was the other side. The away end is the other. When we equalised, that was our end for the 2-0.
Did they flip it on? Did they flip it on the telly then? Because when I went to the Carabao Cup game last season at the Emirates, and it was, I thought it would be that side, but maybe they flip it on the telly.
I don't know. I need to check. Even though I did see some clips of our goals, but
yeah. So here's the other side. Sorry, yeah, that's
the other side. But look, this is where I need to come to Trent. It's those. I think Jurgen Klopp. I saw some comments. He was basically saying I need to take some responsibility. I wasn't vocal enough from the technical side, and it's just that concentration again. Concentration. All we need is half time there, Ben. All we need is half time. Even though we're the better side, and arguably that half time would come at a better time for Arsenal, and Arteta's sort of team talk has completely changed now. It's completely changed, saying, guys, we really need to get up high up the pitch. We need to get the grips of Thiago and Henderson controlling things from midfield. All of a sudden, they land another punch going into halftime after we've dominated from minute 5 to minute 44,
Hmm.
whatever it is, when they score their second goal. And it just, again, honestly, I don't want to sound like a broken record. It's just those lapses of concentration, thinking, let's just respect the situation here. We've got 45 minutes to win this game. We
Yeah.
don't need to go gung ho. Yes, we like to play heavy metal football. Yes, we like to go on the front foot and blitz teams, but for one reason or another, it's not happening at the moment. And it's not happening. And when it's not happening, you need to take stock and think, you know what, we need to adapt to the situation. And again, lapses of concentration. And this was unbelievably bad from Trent. And I've defended Trent
Same.
so much this season, so much, because you have to take a bit of perspective, context to things, and think, you know what, every great player goes through a bad patch, and this is his worst patch of form in best parts of 4 or 5 years. And what he's done for the last 4 or 5 years is unbelievable,
Hmm.
unbelievable. And it just goes to show how bad your decision making can get when you're going through that bad form. And what he needs to do, Henderson has got Martinelli. Yes, Martinelli is a lot quicker and can take any player, any defender on in the world. But Henderson's positioning and Trent's positioning is not bad the moment Martinelli's got the ball. So what you do, and which he did a couple of times prior to that, when Martinelli tried to take someone down the line or chop inside, which he likes to do, all you do is you come and you cover on the inside and let him show him down the line on the left foot. And if he wants to cross with his left foot, then we trust our centre backs to clear and get in front of the attacker. But what he does, it's just a moment of madness again. I think that's the theme of today, isn't it? A
Hmm.
moment of madness. He actually goes and bypasses Henderson and covers on the outside. Like, Martinelli is completely ahead and taken on Henderson. That's what you do when you take on your marker. And then that's when you go down the line and you cover on the outside and you try to cut the cross out. But the situation wasn't as bad as that. All he needed to do is show Martinelli on the inside and then tackle him.
Yeah.
But because he came, and Martinelli speed of thought is so good at the moment, and he's a brilliant player, it goes without saying. He chops inside, and all of a sudden he takes two people out, and then it just that is the reason why Martinelli is allowed to cross the ball from that angle, and Saka taps it in, and all of a sudden we go in deflated after
Yeah.
having recovered from 58 seconds. We control the game. We were playing football, like we sort of not creating a lot of chances, Ben. But I would say that we're most certainly the better team.
Yeah.
But
By
now all
man.
of a sudden we've put a lot into that first half because we're trying to sort of get ahead. Arsenal are sat off us. But now we're going into the second half where Klopp's and Arteta's, halftime team talk is completely different to what
Yeah.
they thought thought it was.
No, absolutely, and you're right. It was just a real kick in the teeth because, like you say, we worked so hard to get back in control of the game and to kind of, like I mentioned before, not let it get away from us. And we went into the half time trailing because of this, and I think Klopp was actually unhappy with the decision making of that. How we just tried to attack when we probably should have just seen out the half. But we come out in the second half and we kind of dust ourselves down and we go again and we do get the equaliser, and it comes from a player who's been under a lot of scrutiny in recent time by Liverpool fans. And Firmino again, mate, one of the players that can hold his head high this season so far. I just want to get your opinion on the goal, really, and would you consider keeping Firmino on for another year or maybe 2 years? Or do you still think he's got a big part to play in this squad, or do you think okay, maybe he can have a decent season and then we move on? What do you think on Firmino at the minute?
I'm a bit split, and I don't like sitting on the fence. But maybe if you asked me at the start of the season, I would have said, look, this should be Bobby's, last season. He deserves an unbelievable send off for the player and the servant for the club that he's been. He's wore his heart on the sleeve. He's run his heart and socks off, for years and years. And, he's a legend in his own right at Liverpool Football Club.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of, does he deserve a contract? Look, I wouldn't mind, but he needs to be fifth choice for me. But him being at the club, Ben, it sort of doesn't draw a line under the transition Liverpool really want to make when they bought Nunes in. And there aren't many. If for me, if you want to replace him, then you go get someone who's more technical, who can come into that hole and connect play. I know there aren't many Bobby Firmino's around. For someone like, I don't know, João Felix, for example, I think who could play that role. And yeah, he might cost a lot of money, but a Bobby replacement will always cost a lot of money. So if you want me to replace him, I think you need to go get another Bobby Firmino. But when they bought Nunes in, then that is a completely different sort of style
Yeah.
of play. And I feel like Liverpool maybe feel a bit confused because they've been playing and they've seen Bobby on the halfway line come in and being the catalyst to our attack and our press,
Mhm.
for many, many years. It just doesn't happen overnight, does it? The change. It
Mm.
doesn't. And I think by him being at the club and ultimately getting chances, and the way we play, we'll always get chances and appearances. Yes, he's been brilliant for us in terms of getting goals, but in terms of the setup when he plays, now it wasn't a coincidence. Arsenal played a lot better in the second half. Yes, their press was slightly different, but when Bobby's on the field, their centre backs know that he ain't gonna go the other way, so it naturally allows them to push further 5 yards forward. He used to, have, a yard of pace, which I think, you lose, but you never lose that nous. So, he has been getting goals. That goal was a brilliant run, in that position. It was a number 9 type of run, wasn't it? In behind
Yeah.
the, I think it was Saliba, and
Great
it was
ball from Jota as well,
it
wasn't
was
it?
a brilliant ball. It was a brilliant ball. And that is the passage of play that you can sort of rely on in a 4-2-3-1 with an extra attacker where Jota is dropping in the hole. And then we've got 2 attackers to make that run in behind. So in Bobby Firmino, I think, look, I wouldn't be against him staying at the club, but there is a definitely an argument for him. He needs to leave so Liverpool can really crack on, and so implement this new style that the management really want them to play.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a comment here from Ishan, and we'll get on to other comment in just a bit later, mate, when we talk about, maybe what the way forward is. I have seen it. So thank you for leaving comments. He's asked, and Kunku can be Bobby's replacement. There's just a small problem with that, mate. He's Chelsea bound, it seems. So, no, you're right. I think he would have been a great option for us, but it
Mm.
looks like he's going to go Chelsea, unfortunately. But once again, thanks for your comments, mate. And we'll address your other one in just a bit later. Um, yeah, no, it's a great goal. Always nice to see Bobby score because he just loves it. Like you can just see by his face. But after that, mate, that was pretty much as far as I can remember. We stopped playing after that. Like that was it. We were level again. And it seemed, which to me, this is, I said on the stream yesterday, this was the most disappointing thing for me. We were kind of playing for the draw at this point, and the subs that he made after like the 70th minute or whatever, I think were very like obvious that we were looking for a draw at that point. And that was the disappointing factor for me because we know draws mean nothing for us because
Mm.
when we've lost out on league titles to Man City, it's because of the draws. It's not because of the losses. Last season, what did we lose? 2 or 3 games. In
Yeah.
18-19, we lost once. That was to City. It's not the losses. It's the draws time and time again.
Mm.
So for me, yesterday, I was thinking to myself, like, if you lose the game by going to try and find a winning goal, fine. But to try and see it out and then conceding it towards the end of the game, putting Hendo at right mid, taking Salah off, and other things, bringing Kanate on. I can't actually remember from the top of my head the subs he made, but
Yeah.
it was just like we're now like, and I guess it's what you say, mate. We have to realize where we are right now because we were inferior in this game and we were scared of Arsenal. So that's obviously why he's done it because we needed to just try and see this out. But at the same time, mate, that just made me realize like we have fallen so far behind because, like I mentioned last season, I went to the Emirates to the Carabao Cup semi-final. We beat
Yeah.
them with Clyde Gordon on the wing for 45 minutes. 2-0. We played them 4 times last season. They didn't score a goal against us. In fact, the only positive result they got was a 0-0
Yeah.
draw at Anfield when they thought that was like a win.
Yeah.
So just in the space of 12 months, mate, like Are you disappointed by that, or do you think it was the right thing to do to try and just see this out and get a point and then move on to City?
Hmm. Ben, we had no urgency because I thought we were done. We had,
Hmm.
yes, the substitutions played a part, and you have to say, the in-game management battle was won by Arteta.
Yeah.
Yes, Klopp played, to his own downfall, and contributed to his own downfall. But what you touched on, Henderson on the right, because our dynamic, even when Gomez, because a lot of people saying Trent's a problem, Trent's a problem, Trent's a problem. Yes, Trent has had many moments of madness and individual errors this season, but the dynamic on that right hand side is just not right. And you have to give Arteta credit. He went into halftime and he sorted it. He pushed on, Thiago and Henderson, and all of a sudden we couldn't get out. Whether it's through down the sides, they pushed. Their press was a lot better, and I think they were pressing more in a 4-4-2 at the start, but they went into a 4-3-3 off the ball, and it got them higher up the pitch. Bobby, like I touched on, Saliba and Gavi were a lot higher, and Arsenal had the energy yesterday. And I was saying to the lads on the way up yesterday that we like we only went to this ground around about 4 to 6 months ago, and whichever Arsenal fan you talk to, whether it was at the ground or even in Twitter Spaces, wherever, they had Liverpool as the blueprint for success, and they made similar comparisons to what Arsenal can do in comparison to Liverpool, because they know they're not a club like United and City or the PSG, where they can go out on every summer and spend 200 million.
Hmm.
And they had this sort of philosophy and style that Arteta, and I used to go into Twitter Spaces, Ben, and tell Arsenal fans that you need to be patient with Arteta, because you see the succession plan that he's sort of trying to implement, and see the sort of jigsaw, the pieces of the jigsaws that he's trying to bring in. And not only the signings did the signings bring natural quality to the side, but they also, the likes of Zinchenko and Jesus, they brought belief and resilience and a mentality to the Arsenal team. And you saw that yesterday. And like you said, Liverpool were the team that Arsenal fans envied only 6 months ago. And look how the tables have turned. They have become everything that we were only 5 6 months ago. And it's just the irony and how far Liverpool, whether it was how can you become so bad all of a sudden. And I know it's not never as bad as it seems, or it's never as good as it seems as well. So you just need to sort of have a bit of perspective into things, because Liverpool will turn it around, and Liverpool is not as bad as they are showing right now. And I still have a lot of confidence that Liverpool will finish in the top four. But in terms of situations going down, with the substitutions, Ben, that Jurgen Klopp, a guy who risks everything, plays is brave at the start of the game by playing four attackers, suddenly is found being on the back foot, and he takes our match winner, our star player in Mohamed Salah, off, and brings Henderson on the right just to contain their right hand side. And even when Gomez is playing, Martinelli is getting in on that side every single time. And sometimes you have to hold your hands up and say, you know what, this is a brilliant, player that is just
Yeah,
giving us
fantastic.
far too many problems. And to be honest with you, I need to watch the game back and see where the problem lied. Was it, our two in the middle getting stretched and creating gaps in the middle, and their quick one or twos were caught in that the little triangles were going and getting the ball out wide, and all of a sudden we're chasing our backs to the goal. But wherever it was, Ben, we had a problem down that right hand side, and even when Fab came on, still the problems there. And you just have to hold your hands up. And Liverpool have just not that team anymore. We have
Hmm.
become more of a possession-based football team. We can't blitz teams anymore. And it was not a coincidence when they went 3-2 up. We hardly created a chance. And even, yeah, it was a bit of huff and puff. We launched it a few times with Nunes up top, but Arsenal had us where they wanted, and they had many. They had the dynamism. They had the youngsters playing for each other. Their press was a lot better, and all in all, they controlled the game. And we've never seen that with Liverpool, and we've always got that belief that we're going to come back. We're going to come back. And
Yeah,
credit to Liverpool as
always.
well. We did. It did happen twice in the game, but maybe we just ran out of fuel in the end.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And the way we lost the game was very controversial as well. Like you said, mate, I heard Ian Wright's comments, and this isn't just us saying this as Liverpool fans. It seems like Ian Wright said it, or the pundit said it. It was a very, very soft penalty to give. Again, I'm not blaming the officials for losing the game. We didn't do enough ourselves, but it was disappointing because, to be fair, it could have been avoided anyway because you see how many times we tried to clear the ball. Literally tried to clear it about 10 times. I think Fabinho literally gives it back to them. And then they just keep coming forward, and it just becomes, like you say, a moment of madness. And Thiago does what he does. And then obviously Jesus is a clever forward. He feels any
Yeah,
sort of contact, he goes down. And look, you just got to, be honest and say, like, that's what forwards do. If that was Bobby or Firmino, Bobby or Diaz or Salah, we're wanting them to do the same thing. We're screaming, go down. So it is what it is. It's soft, but there is contact. He's going to go down. Once the referee's given it, VAR can't overturn it because it's not an obvious mistake. But what was the mood like, mate, when that pen went in at the ground? Was it just like a sinking moment of realization of, yeah, we're in trouble now?
mm. Ben, that moment, I think it was around about a minute before. Well, Arsenal were really pressing us and coming forward, attack after attack. But that moment of 40, 50 seconds, it became laughable. It was
Yeah,
a comedy show.
shocking.
And we're seeing players at the biggest moments of the matches not be themselves. I think Kanate couldn't get the clearance out first. Then it was Thiago who had the ball. I think, he could just put it in row Z, put it in
Mm.
row Z. And we decide to take a touch. Then Fabinho, I think, tries to toe poke the ball and hardly gets any distance on it. That phase of play could have been ended 2, 3 times, and it doesn't happen. And it just invites and it gives encouragement to Arsenal. And I think that is another word that needs to be used. We kept on giving encouragement, and we've constantly given encouragement to teams game after game after game. And it's just, we're playing games, and with this is the Premier League. You don't get away with things. We're giving teams 1-0 head starts. And the same again for the goal. Yeah, I agree. If it's any of our attacker, we want them to go down 100%. We take the penalty and we run with 3 points away from that ground and we climb up that table. That's what we exactly came for, and that's what exactly we want. But yesterday, that 50 minutes, 50 seconds, honestly, it became, I was just thinking, what is going on? We can't clear a ball, for God's sake. And we
Mhm.
got the just, sort of ending of that in that phase of play. That it ended up, in a penalty. Yes, it was soft. Yes, it shouldn't have probably counted. But, that's what happens if you make stupid decisions. Teams of the quality of Arsenal punish you. And whether it's through a VAR decision or a brilliant goal, we got what we deserved. 100%.
No, I agree, mate. And this comment from one of my friends. I said in a
Okay.
group chat about 2 weeks ago that I wasn't scared of Arsenal and will comfortably finish above them. So I just got to hold my hands up and admit that isn't going to be the case. Arsenal, uh, as it stands, miles better than us. Like, you have to be honest. I am
Mm.
honest. Um, and like Asim said, we have to realize where we are at right now, and that's fourth place at best, in my opinion. I hoped it would be different. I predicted it to be different, but for whatever reason, lack of investment,
Yeah.
maybe tactics going stale, all these kind of different things, it's not happened. But listen, we just got to hope we turn it around. And we're going to talk about the upcoming game now, mate. Just touching on it briefly. Rangers away.
Yeah.
You going?
At the moment, yes. At the moment, yesterday night, I just thought I need to take a break. It's that travel yesterday, and I was explaining off air to you as well. Yesterday seemed like one of those moments in the season that, what, you felt like everything's coming crashing down,
Hmm.
and it didn't help. It was a bit emotional yesterday. Honestly, it was a bit emotional seeing. Yes, Thiago was the first one to come to the away fans and put his hands
He
up, and
doesn't need to apologize for anything,
he
by the way.
doesn't. I don't think he was bad as people make out to be, especially the first half. Him and Henderson generally had a lot of the time of the ball and control things. But that's what this double pivot, going back to that formation. It's when teams press our double pivot, Ben, it's when you need a progressor then
Yeah.
where he can drop a shoulder and beat a man. Someone like, Genie, someone like a Bernardo Silva, when they play in those positions, they've got a bit more to their game. And Thiago and Henderson like to be. There's two ways to get to the ball to A to B, isn't it? You either ping it like Henderson and Thiago and Trent, or you progress it by taking it and dribbling it, a 5-10 yards further up the field and then playing it off. But those two, because they're not progressors, and when people really pay attention to them and that formation, is where we struggle, where we'll struggle. And it wasn't a coincidence. Arsenal rectified that sort of problem, put a lot more pressure and got closer to them, and we struggled. Rangers, look, we should have enough for Rangers, but let's not
We
make.
should, mate. Yeah, we
We
should.
should, we should. But look, it's going to be a completely different game to what it was at Anfield. And that is a hostile ground to go to. It's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere. And we just need to make sure we keep the ball and we let our football do the talking. And if we let our football do the talking, we'll come out of that ground and we need to consolidate our position. I don't even want to think, sort of about dropping points or even losing our Ibrox, because if we do, then we've got
Sure.
top four in danger and we've got our qualification in danger for the Champions League. And if we weren't in a crisis before today, we most certainly will be if we do anything daft on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I agree with what you say, mate. I did a stream before, and I put in a few like younger players in the lineup, and then I realized what you just said. Like, if we mess this up on Wednesday, then we've got Ajax and Napoli to play, and you probably got to beat one of them.
Yeah.
Ajax gave us a good game at Anfield, so away it's not going to be easy. And I realised actually we kind of need to go as strong as we can to get this game done, because if we win, we're actually in a good position there.
Yeah.
Because obviously Napoli will play Ajax and they battered them last time. So yeah, I'd go strong again on Wednesday night as we can. But yeah, I don't know, man. This is it now, isn't it? Champions League is pretty much what we have. Still in our own hands, I guess. So if we can sort things out quickly, you just never know. It would be the most Liverpool thing to happen. Like in 05 when we won it, we finished fifth. So I'm not saying it's going to happen. We're a million miles away from looking like anywhere near one of the best teams in Europe. But we have time on our hands to turn it around. It's only been 8 games, so there's still a long way to go.
Well, of course.
Yeah, and just to touch on this guy as well, real quick, mate. The news broke up a couple of hours ago. One man that won't be playing on Wednesday night is one of our best players this season. Top 2 best players. He's going to be out, mate, until December. Luis Diaz. How much of a blow is that for an already struggling side who Luis Diaz was basically carrying for the last 3 months?
Absolute massive. We can't really explain how big this loss is, Ben. And like I said, if when the problems are bad, they just keep on mounting up. And it's Liverpool like as well, isn't it? Everything, when we have a really good season, it's unbelievable. We nearly completed football last season. It was unbelievable. And obviously we fell short in the end of completing football, but the journey was unbelievable. Even, when we won the Champions League, it was unbelievable. Well, that unprecedented season where we had a million injuries. So we don't do anything half-hearted, do we? We either from here or here. So now we're facing a situation where, yes, like you said, one of our best players is injured, and not just only how much of a goal threat he sort of possesses. It's how he plays, and sometimes there's been many moments this year that he's carried us, Ben. He's carried us. And where we've nearly every game we've let a goal down, and he's just wore his heart on his sleeve, and he's provided, and he's taken us about 5-10 yards further up the field and carried this brilliant Liverpool side. And there's so many big world-class personalities in that. But this guy who's just been in the club for about a year, and he's already become one of our favorite players in the stands, is because of the way he plays and the energy he has. Because his energy rubs off on us, and especially when you really are, having those lull moments in the games where you need someone to create or do something, and sometimes it just needs a moment of brilliance. It needs a moment of a hard tackle, crunching tackle in midfield to really revitalize the people in the stands and the team. but he's been brilliant. You don't need me to tell you how good he's been for Liverpool, but Trent's going to be a big miss as well. I know um, uh, he's playing badly at the moment, but he's an integral part to our attack. Even though he's not defending very well at the moment, he's an integral part. And the way we play, we go through him a lot of times. But now again, we've always been talking. All of us have been talking about 4-3-3 to 4-3-1. But all of a sudden now, with Trent not playing for us, we need to sort of adapt again. And these tweaks that we've been making since Nunes has come in, since Harvey Elliott has been playing that right-sided midfielder role, since we've reverted, gone to a 4-2-3-1. Every tweak that we seem to make at the moment is not working for us. So and now a few more tweaks. So let's see how it plays out. And I think what we need to do is take a step back. Management need to call the players in, and which I'm sure his Klopp and his management team will do over the next coming days, is reassess our expectations, reassess our season at the moment, and maybe this World Cup couldn't have come at a better time for us, where it's just splits the season, it takes a bit of the pressure off. The players will go away and play for their countries, come back, the guys who are coming and work on their games, and look at themselves in the mirror as well. The guys who are staying in behind, get their fitness levels up, and have a bit of rest mentally as well. Because I think games are coming thick and fast. We just cannot sort of take stock of where we are at the moment, because we're just playing every 2, 3, 4 days at the moment. But I think this period now up until the World Cup, Liverpool need to treat it as a little mini season. Get through Rangers. Just it's important not to get beat by Manchester City. And I don't know why I'm saying this, and it feels I'm hurt. I'm saying this where Liverpool have started coming, sort of are at the moment where we're saying Liverpool just don't need to get beat by Manchester City, but we need to be realistic as to where we are and what situation we're in. But once we come out of that, I think there's some favourable fixtures as well. I think it's West Ham, Southampton, and Forest. So if we're in touching distance, we can't be out of it going into the World Cup. If we're in touching distance of the top 4 going into the World Cup, then I'm sure we can use that period during the World Cup to come back and mentally sort of go again for the second part of the season.
I agree with what you're saying, mate. Completely. And yeah, I think, first of all, the Diaz stuff, I agree with you. It's a bigger blow than what anyone can imagine. And I went to his debut against Leicester City, was lucky enough to be in the Cup on that day and witness his fantastic performance. His Anfield debut, he was just different gravy to anyone on the pitch. And ever since, every time I've been going, he's just constantly been the one that just, like, when you're there in the ground and you want to see that, like, entertainment factor, that guy that's going to get you on the edge. You see, like Palace this season, I went to that one as well. The goal he scored was just out of this world. And ever since we signed him, I've just, like, game by game, just loved him more. And he's a huge blow, a huge blow. Like you said, mate, he's carried us for so long now. He's been the one out of all the forwards. Mo Salah sitting on his 350k contract now. And look, I will cut Salah some slack because I think the new position that he's playing in does not suit him whatsoever. But time's going, so we're not going to delve too much into that for now. But it's been Diaz this season that's been getting us out of stuff, and to not have him now, Isham makes a good point. Maybe we do have to go back to the 4-3-3 because we can't use all our forwards in one game now. We've got to have some to fall back on if someone gets an injury. So it'll be interesting to see what we do. I'm sure they'll think of something, but I just want to ask you this question to finish, mate. And this is the most important question I'm going to ask you in this stream. This is the conversation that's been going around on Twitter today. I know my answer. I think I probably know your answer as well. Is Jurgen Klopp still the man that you have all your faith in to get this team out of this rut? Because I know it might sound silly asking you this, mate, but this question's been going around a lot on social media. So thoughts on Klopp at the minute, and are you still confident that he's the man to get this team out of the mess?
Of course. He's one of the best managers we've ever had. If anyone had credit in the bank, is Jurgen Klopp. And we live in a world where this cancel culture, or we live in a world where someone has 3 games, they want the sacking. I think Jurgen Klopp has a relationship with the owners, has a relationship, a deep relationship with the fans and a connection with the club. That if anyone's going to turn us around, it's Jurgen Klopp. But I feel sorry for him at the moment,
Me
Ben.
too.
Why I feel sorry for him? Because I think this manager hasn't been backed enough. And look, I tweeted out yesterday that we need answers for the lack of investment, because ultimately, where you can point your fingers at the lack of legs, the lack of mental freshness, the lack of physical freshness, the lack of form. Call it what you want. Just but ultimately, if you do not refresh the team year in, year out, and provide competition for the existing squad, then you're just not going to progress as a team. And Klopp has worked miracles, miracles. He's turned £30 million players into world beaters, the likes of Mane and Salah. The list goes on. But you can only work, work your magic so much. Ultimately, you sometimes need the support. Why you need the support? Because you're dealing with the best in the world. In Manchester City, you're dealing with Chelsea, Arsenal, United, who have spent millions and millions on their squad. And it only takes our squad to drop off and them to just get better. And we've allowed this period to take place because we've just stood still and expecting for Klopp to work with his magic with the current squad. And I feel sorry for him because he needs to be backed. I believe this squad now, especially a Jurgen Klopp team that relies on its engine in midfield, that blitzes teams, that outruns teams, outmuscles teams. This team has lost its legs. Yes, there is a lack of confidence, and we know that. And they've really, on an individual basis, they're not really going for it. They're not at the races. But this team, it's not a coincidence why what we're seeing now is a problem in the midfield, because we've bought two midfielders since 2019 when we won the Champions League, Thiago and Arthur Melo, who's unfortunately got injured for the next 3-4 months.
Yep.
And this is why I feel sorry for him. And there is a counter argument that's sort of put towards Klopp, that he's too loyal. He's too loyal to his players, the likes of Henderson and James Milner and these guys. But ultimately, I think you have to sort of adapt to your budget of the club. I'm sure he wants a Chouameni type of signing, which we proved that we went in for him. So I think this manager needs backing now. And maybe the owners realize that the danger of falling out of the Champions League. They just need to make a move, and whether that's in January or a big summer, I don't mind when it is. Obviously, January would be nice, but this summer, if we can somehow get Champions League and then really, really go big, then really go again, because this second phase of Klopp 2.0 was supposed to be a successful one. And yes, I believe any team goes through a transition, but in today's elite football, it doesn't matter how good of a manager you are, whether it's Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp or anyone else out there, if you don't spend on the squad, you ain't getting nowhere.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And look, it just sounds like a stupid question when I ask people this, because I know the answer, and obviously you go to the games, and I don't know anybody that goes to games that isn't for Jurgen Klopp. Like you say, he's got such a good relationship with the fans, and I think it's just different when you're there. And you're absolutely right. There's no one in the world that I would ever consider swapping for him. If even if it got that bad, like, I would still trust him to do something. 2021, like I think Ishan commented a bit earlier on, that's the worst it got for us in terms of injuries, in terms of devastations within the manager and Alisson's family. And he still guided us to a third place finish despite losing 6 on the bounce at home. So if you look at those factors, and look, I know Chelsea are a lot stronger now than what they were. Spurs are a lot stronger-ish. United are seemingly on the rise according to their fans, etc. So it's going to be a lot more challenging this season, I think, to get that top 4 spot than what it was then. But I think you make a great point about the World Cup. That's probably going to be the perfect time for us now to just kind of hit the reset button, let players go away that are going away. The players that aren't going away, enjoy a holiday or something, just switch off, and mentally and physically prepared to go again for the second part of the season, because this team of players, they didn't turn into bad players in the space of 3 months. It's almost impossible. Like, it just doesn't happen. A lot of them still 28, 29, so they're not out of the peak, they're not out of the primes just yet. So they've still got a lot to give. And for whatever reason, that's not happened this season. But we've just got to keep having faith, keep having trust in the manager. And if nothing improves, the conversation will be asked again at some point. But the sample size for this season is still too small. Like we've both said, we are a million miles away. Expectations have to be readdressed. And I think we're all on the same page. It's going to be third or fourth, absolute best. And then maybe a cup run of some sort. So we are aware that we aren't the team we want to be. But look, we'll get there again. Maybe not this season, but if we just back the manager in the way that we want, get him the players that we can all glaringly see we need, we should be okay. But guys, thank you for watching. If you made it to this point, Asim, you're a superstar for jumping on, mate, when we needed you at very last notice. But do you want to just quickly say where the guys can find you that are watching you, bro?
Yeah, you'll probably find me on Twitter and the other sort of social media platforms. But as you know, Ben, we launched a channel called Born and Red, sort of giving people a matchday experience. We do shows on YouTube as well and other social media platforms. So yeah, they'll find me on Twitter on AsimBNR if you like, and subscribe on Born and Red as well on YouTube. That would be great. And yeah, thanks again for having me, Ben. You're a star, and continue the great work you're doing as well, mate. Thank you very much.
Problem, mate. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. That brings me on as well to end the stream. I've not even said it yet, which is poor from me. But please smash the like button and subscribe on here as well. Obviously, still relatively new to bringing the podcast onto YouTube. They were just on Spotify up until recently, so we're still growing. So help us out, smashing the like button, subscribing. It will mean a lot. SPORTENING group chat link in the description. Have your say on the team, the manager, anything you want, and we'll see you over there. So take care, guys, and we'll see you next time.